Darius Kane's mind raced as the cold, unyielding metal of his cell pressed in on him, every echo of distant clanging a reminder of the battles that had forged his soul into something unbreakable. He had long ceased to be a man defined solely by the scars of war. Now, he was a living testament to humanity's defiance in the face of overwhelming tyranny. The vessel around him shuddered under the weight of merciless intent, its corridors a labyrinth of whispered threats and the promise of imminent violence. As he stood before the assembly of galactic mercenaries, faces half hidden in the dim light, eyes glinting with a mix of anticipation and cruelty, Darius could almost hear the ghost of his past urging him on. "I am more than your prey," he thought, his voice low yet resolute as it broke the oppressive silence. "I am the spark that will ignite a revolution." The harsh, gravelly tones of Captain Iron Vex cut through the still air, his words dripping with condescension as he addressed the captive. "Darius Kane, you have been chosen for this spectacle, a prize to be displayed before those who revel in chaos and despair." With a measured calm that belied the storm raging within him, Darius met the captain's gaze, his eyes burning with a quiet fury, and replied, "You mistake entertainment for power, Vex. I stand here not as a broken man, but as a testament to a past filled with honor and a future that will reclaim what you have lost." His words, simple yet laden with defiance, stirred murmurs among the gathered mercenaries, their curiosity piqued by the resolute cadence of his tone. As one of them reached forward and grasped the thin, worn dog tag that hung from Darius's neck, time seemed to slow. The faded inscription, "Reaper," shimmered in the low light, a symbol that resonated deeply within the hearts of those who had once dared to dream of freedom. A ripple of recognition passed through the crowd, transforming crude smiles and mocking glances into expressions of wary respect, for they knew that the name Reaper was not simply a moniker, but a legacy, a promise of retribution against those who enslaved the human spirit. "So, it is true," sneered Vex, his voice a mix of disbelief and disdain, "you carry the ghost of your past on your neck like a talisman, as if it could somehow protect you from the fate that awaits." Darius's reply was a soft chuckle, his tone imbued with the weight of countless battles fought in the shadows of despair. "This tag is not a shield, Vex, it is a reminder of every soul that has ever dared to stand against tyranny, and today, it marks the beginning of your undoing." The mercenaries shifted uneasily, their confidence shaken by the quiet conviction in his words, while Darius felt a surge of determination swell within him, fueled by memories of a home lost to oppression and comrades who had fallen in the name of freedom. Every step he took was deliberate, each movement resonating with the defiant pulse of a man who had weathered storms of blood and fire, his inner voice steady in its conviction that even in the darkest depths of captivity, hope could be kindled anew. "I have been forged in the fires of betrayal and loss," he continued, his voice rising in a crescendo that filled the narrow confines of the cell, "and I will not allow your twisted games to extinguish the light of a future where humanity stands unchained." His words, resonant and uncompromising, seemed to suspend the very air, drawing forth a silence heavy with the promise of impending rebellion. In that moment, the boundaries between prisoner and warrior blurred, and the mercenaries, once eager to exploit his suffering for sport, found themselves confronted with the realization that they were facing not a mere man, but the embodiment of an indomitable will. "You see only the surface of my story," Darius declared, his tone both gentle and fierce, "but beneath these scars lies the heart of a warrior who has fought for every breath of freedom, who has endured the horrors of war and emerged not as a victim, but as a harbinger of hope." His eyes, dark and unyielding, met those of his captors with an intensity that silenced even the most cynical of laughs. The low hum of the ship's engines became a dirge for the false certainty of the mercenaries, their bravado melting away in the face of a resolve that was as ancient as the human spirit itself. "I am not here to beg for mercy," he continued, his voice now a declaration of war against fate, "but to remind you that even in the clutches of despair, there lies a power that no amount of cruelty can suppress, a power born from the unbreakable bond of a people who refuse to be forgotten." As the mechanical doors slid open to reveal the gauntlet of trials awaiting him, Darius felt the weight of destiny upon his shoulders, yet he walked forward with the unshakable certainty that his journey was only beginning. Every clink of his chains was a metronome marking the passage of time towards an inevitable confrontation, every breath a silent vow to transform this spectacle of suffering into the dawn of a new era. "Let this day be etched into the annals of history," he proclaimed, his voice echoing like a battle cry in the cavernous void of the vessel, "for it is the day when the spirit of humanity rose against the tyranny of those who would see us cower in fear, when a single act of defiance sparked a fire that would burn away the shackles of oppression." The words fell heavy upon the hearts of those who heard them, igniting a spark of rebellion even among the most hardened mercenaries, who found themselves questioning the morality of their cruel pursuits. "You speak of freedom as if it were a tangible force," Vex retorted, his tone laced with both scorn and uncertainty, "but freedom is an illusion, a fleeting dream that dies in the harsh light of reality." Darius's response was a quiet, resolute murmur that carried the weight of centuries. "Freedom is not an illusion, it is the unyielding flame in the heart of every man who dares to dream beyond the boundaries of tyranny, and it is a flame that no darkness can ever extinguish." In that charged atmosphere, the lines between captor and captive dissolved, replaced by a shared, unspoken recognition of the power that lay dormant within every human soul, a power that, once awakened, could shatter the bonds of even the most formidable oppressors. As they advanced toward the unknown, Darius's eyes gleamed with the promise of retribution, and his every word, laden with the resolve of a man who had stared down death itself, served as a beacon of hope for a future where humanity would reclaim its rightful place among the stars. His voice, resonant and unwavering, carried across the metal confines of his prison, each syllable a testament to the enduring spirit of resistance, each pause a silent vow that the era of subjugation was drawing to an end. And so, with his fate hanging in the balance and the eyes of 1,000 merciless souls upon him, Darius Kane stepped forward into the abyss of his destiny, a solitary figure whose unyielding defiance would soon transform the very nature of the Galactic Order, heralding a revolution that would echo through the void of space and time. In the oppressive stillness that followed his defiant declaration, the tension within the vessel reached an almost palpable crescendo as the mercenaries exchanged glances filled with both trepidation and a flicker of admiration, uncertain how to proceed in the face of a prisoner who now radiated an aura of insurgent resolve. As Darius Kane was marched through the labyrinthine corridors, every heavy step echoing like the drumbeat of an approaching storm, his mind churned with meticulous calculations and clandestine strategies designed to exploit the smallest fissures in his captor's resolve, and even as the harsh lights of the metal-clad passageways revealed the hardened faces of his would-be executioners, he sensed that beneath their calloused exteriors lay a latent discontent, a simmering unease that could be kindled into a full-blown rebellion. A low, conspiratorial murmur began to ripple among the mercenaries, voices hushed yet insistent, as one of the lower-ranking men, whose loyalty wavered like a candle in the wind, remarked in a gravelly tone, "There's talk among us that Kane is not merely a broken man but a relic of a time when honor still mattered," to which another, more cynical voice replied, "Honor is for fools, but his defiance stirs something in the soul, a spark that might yet ignite our own buried hopes." And as these murmurs intertwined with the clank of chained footsteps, Darius's eyes, dark and unyielding, scanned the faces around him, committing to memory the slight hesitations and furtive glances that betrayed their inner conflict, for in that moment he understood that the real battle was not fought solely on the fields of combat but in the hearts and minds of those who believed themselves irredeemable. The oppressive cadence of Captain Iron Vex's orders, barked with an authoritative edge that barely masked his own creeping uncertainty, reverberated down the corridor. "Keep moving. Do not let this prisoner's insolence distract you from your duty." Yet even as the words echoed, a subtle shift in the mercenaries' demeanors became apparent, furtive smiles and reluctant nods betraying their inner turmoil, as if the very act of witnessing Darius's unyielding defiance had awakened memories of a lost past where courage was the currency of freedom. Amid the clamor and subdued dissent, Darius's inner voice, calm and resolute, recounted countless battles fought in the name of liberty, every scar a testament to the unbreakable spirit of his people, and he whispered silently, "Every chain that binds me is a chain that has once restrained a warrior's will. Today, I will shatter them all." Even as the heavy footsteps of his escorts drew him ever closer to the dreaded main hold, where fate, like a coiled serpent, awaited its moment to strike, his thoughts raced, not merely with memories of past glories and losses but with a calculated resolve to transform the very predicament into an opportunity. For every step through those echoing corridors was a step closer to igniting the latent rebellion simmering within the hearts of those who had long accepted their own subjugation, and with each measured word he exchanged, softly, almost imperceptibly, with the mercenaries whose eyes now shone with a conflicted mixture of admiration and fear, he planted the seeds of insurrection, daring them to believe that even in the bleakest moments of captivity, the human spirit could rise. Like a phoenix from the ashes of despair, one voice, emboldened by the audacity of his own emerging convictions, ventured a question that cut through the oppressive atmosphere. "Captain, have we not, in our own hearts, felt the sting of oppression and the yearning for something more than this endless cycle of brutality?" A question that hung in the air like a forbidden truth, and though it was met by a curt dismissal from Vex, "Doubt is a luxury we cannot afford in the midst of our duty." The seeds of rebellion had already taken root, for in that instant, the very concept of loyalty began to fracture under the weight of an emerging awareness that the status quo was as brittle as the decaying metal around them. Darius's eyes locked with those of a nearby guard, and in a voice low yet charged with an unspoken promise, he murmured, "Tell your comrades that the day of tyranny is over, that every man who has been shackled by fear will soon find the strength to rise and reclaim his destiny." His words weaving through the silence like a clarion call, infusing even the most stoic of faces with a glimmer of hope, and as the vessel continued its relentless journey through the void, the tension within its steel corridors escalated to a fever pitch, each passing second a countdown to an inevitable confrontation that would redefine the balance of power. The murmur of dissent grew louder, transforming into a subtle chorus of discontent that resonated with the unyielding truth that no man, no matter how hardened by the cruelty of his circumstances, could be kept in chains forever. And amidst this charged atmosphere, Darius continued to engage his captors with a blend of measured defiance and tactical acumen, speaking not just to them but to the very essence of human resilience. "I stand before you not as a victim of circumstance but as a living testament to the enduring flame of liberty, a flame that, once ignited, will consume the false idols of tyranny and usher in an era where the spirit of man reigns supreme," his voice carrying the weight of 1,000 battles and the promise of redemption. And though his words were simple, they were imbued with a power that transcended the physical confines of his imprisonment, echoing in the hearts of those who dared to listen and stirring a dormant courage that had long lain buried beneath the layers of despondency. In that defining moment, the oppressive regime of the mercenaries began to crumble from within, as the dissonance between duty and desire grew too vast to ignore, and even Captain Iron Vex, whose countenance had long been a mask of unyielding authority, could not entirely suppress the flicker of uncertainty that danced in his eyes, for deep down he too harbored memories of a time when honor and freedom were not mere relics of a bygone era but the very essence of existence, and it was in that shared, unspoken understanding that the fragile walls of subjugation began to falter. A hushed conversation broke out among the ranks, each word a defiant strike against the oppressive order. "Perhaps it is time to consider that our purpose might be greater than the whims of those who would see us remain forever shackled," one mercenary whispered, his tone laced with the bittersweet realization that even those bred for brutality could yearn for something beyond the hollow promises of power. And another replied, "If a man like Cain can ignite a spark of hope with his very presence, imagine what we might achieve if we dared to embrace our own potential." A sentiment that, like a wildfire in dry brush, spread quickly among the men, fanning the flames of dissent until the rigid lines of command began to blur into a chaotic, yet profoundly liberating, symphony of possibility. Darius, acutely aware of the shifting tides, pressed forward with unwavering resolve, each step a testament to the truth that destiny is not dictated by one's circumstances but forged in the crucible of defiance and hope. And as the heavy doors of the main hold loomed ever closer, he gathered every ounce of strength and conviction, his eyes burning with the fierce light of rebellion, and declared in a voice that resonated like the roar of an ancient warrior, "Today, we cast off the shackles of fear and step into a future where the indomitable spirit of humanity reigns supreme," a declaration that reverberated throughout the vessel, stirring even the most reluctant hearts into a beat of shared purpose. And as the guards hesitated, caught in the crossfire of duty and emerging desire, the quiet murmur of rebellion transformed into a resounding clamor, a battle cry that promised not just the liberation of one man, but the awakening of an entire legion of souls determined to reclaim their destiny from the clutches of tyranny. And in that single, unforgettable moment, as the corridors filled with the raw, unbridled energy of imminent revolution, the fate of the vessel, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in a delicate balance. teetering on the precipice of change, and Darius Kane, his spirit unyielding and his resolve as steadfast as the very stars themselves, became the living embodiment of that transformation, a beacon of hope that shone through the darkness, illuminating the path to freedom for all those who dared to dream of a future unburdened by oppression. The moment of transformation exploded into a maelstrom of raw energy as Darius Kane, standing at the precipice of his destiny, felt the surge of his dormant implants awaken with a brilliance that defied the dim confines of his metallic prison. His veins pulsed with an electrifying vitality, and in that instant, the boundaries of flesh and machine blurred into an unstoppable force of defiant humanity. His eyes, once a mirror of quiet resignation, now burned with the incandescent fire of rebellion, and every heartbeat echoed with the promise of a revolution long overdue. As the energy coursed through him, Darius spoke with a voice that resonated like thunder across the chamber. Today marks the beginning of the end for those who have enslaved our spirit. No chain, no tyrant, no force of oppression shall hold us captive any longer. His words, laden with the weight of countless sacrifices and unyielding hope, rippled through the ranks of his captors, fracturing the ironclad obedience that had once bound them. In that charged moment, the mercenaries, their hardened expressions faltering before the awe of his metamorphosis, began to waver, their loyalty crumbling like brittle stone under the relentless pressure of newfound conviction. A murmur of disbelief and reluctant admiration stirred among them, as even the most loyal soldiers found themselves questioning the brutal order they had long enforced. "What sorcery is this?" gasped one man, his voice trembling as if caught between the terror of the unknown and the allure of liberation. Captain Iron Vex, his authority now threatened by the very man he had sought to subjugate, bellowed with a mixture of fury and disbelief, "Stand down. Arrest him at once." Yet his command fell like a dying echo against the rising tide of dissent, as a trusted lieutenant, emboldened by the raw power emanating from Darius, stepped forward with eyes glistening with defiant hope and declared, "I will no longer serve a regime built on cruelty and despair. Today, I choose freedom over submission." The lieutenant's words, fervent and uncompromising, ignited a spark among the others, a spark that quickly grew into an inferno of rebellion. Darius's presence, amplified by the surge of his cybernetic enhancements, became the fulcrum upon which the balance of power shifted irreversibly. With each resonant syllable, he dismantled the foundations of tyranny, articulating a vision where every man and woman, no longer confined by the shackles of fear, could rise as architects of their destiny. "Your weapons, your orders, your entire edifice of control is built upon the suffering of the many," he proclaimed, his voice a clarion call that transcended the physical confines of the vessel. "But the human spirit is indomitable, and even the deepest wounds can heal to reveal the strength within." His declaration was met with a fervent silence, a pause pregnant with the weight of possibility, as eyes once hardened by servitude now glistened with the prospect of liberation. The very air trembled with the promise of change, each charged moment a testament to the power of transformation that had long been dormant within him. In that instant, Darius's mind, honed by years of strategic combat and relentless adversity, raced with the realization that his metamorphosis was not solely a personal evolution but a catalyst for a broader insurrection, a turning point that would dismantle the oppressive regime from within. "Let this be the day when we cast aside the lies of our oppressors and embrace the truth that lies in our unity," he continued, his tone both soothing and galvanizing, as he addressed not only the skeptical mercenaries but also the silent echoes of those who had suffered in the shadows of tyranny. His words, interwoven with the fervor of battle and the tenderness of remembrance, stirred memories of lost kin and the promise of a future unburdened by fear. "Every scar you bear, every chain that binds you, is a testament to the strength that lies beneath the surface. We are not mere pawns in the games of tyrants, we are warriors of a forgotten era, reborn through fire and sacrifice." As the energy within him intensified, a palpable shift occurred, a subtle yet undeniable realignment of loyalties that began to ripple outward from his core, infusing even the most battle-hardened souls with the seed of insurrection. The oppressive order that had long governed their lives was now cracking under the relentless pressure of truth and defiance. Amid the chaos of clashing allegiances, a spark of unity flickered into flame, and voices that had been silenced by fear now rose in a chorus of determination. "I will no longer be your enemy," whispered one mercenary, his tone tentative yet filled with hope, "for I see now that our true battle is not against each other, but against those who would chain our spirit." In that moment of collective awakening, Darius felt the full magnitude of his transformation, a metamorphosis that transcended the physical realm and touched the very soul of every man present. His internal resolve, forged in the crucible of endless strife, now manifested outwardly as a luminous beacon of resistance, one that illuminated the dark corridors of tyranny with the radiant glow of possibility. "Do not fear this change," he urged, his voice imbued with both warmth and ironclad conviction, "for in the heart of every man lies the power to rise above his circumstances and shape a destiny unbound by the chains of oppression." His words, delivered with a passion that belied the cold sterility of their surroundings, began to erode the very fabric of the mercenaries' obedience, replacing it with a fervent yearning for autonomy and justice. The insurrection swelled like a tidal wave, overwhelming the entrenched hierarchy of those who had long reveled in the subjugation of others. Amid the clamor, the betrayal of old loyalties became inevitable, as even the staunchest enforcers found themselves compelled to question the righteousness of their orders. Captain Iron Vex, once the embodiment of unyielding authority, now stood isolated at the helm of a crumbling order, his commands reduced to desperate shouts that were swallowed by the cacophony of rebellion. "Your reign ends here, Vex," Darius declared, his tone a harmonious blend of defiance and hope, "for the future belongs to those who dare to dream of a world where every soul is free to write its own story." The words resonated deeply, each syllable a hammer strike against the oppressive edifice of power, and as the once impenetrable walls of command buckled under the weight of renewed conviction, a sense of liberation spread through the ranks like wildfire. The turning point had been reached, a moment when the scars of past battles were transformed into emblems of resilience, and every act of defiance, no matter how small, became a building block in the edifice of a new order. With his transformation complete and his message etched indelibly into the hearts of those present, Darius Kane, now a living symbol of the indomitable human spirit, advanced with the unwavering certainty that this was not merely an act of rebellion, but the dawning of a renaissance, a resurrection of hope and unity that would echo through the corridors of time. His presence, radiant and formidable, served as a rallying cry to all who had ever been downtrodden, a testament to the power of transformation that no force of tyranny could ever extinguish. And as the echoes of his resolute proclamation reverberated throughout the vessel, merging with the rising chorus of defiant voices, it became unmistakably clear that the era of oppression had met its match in the unyielding will of a people reborn in the flames of revolution. Darius Kane's final stand erupted into an unstoppable surge of defiant energy as he strode forward into the heart of the crumbling regime, his voice resonating with the power of every soul that had suffered under tyranny. "This is our reckoning, the moment when oppression meets its end and every man, every woman, every captive spirit rises to claim a destiny free of chains." The rebels, their hearts ignited by his words, surged as one unstoppable force, each step, each breath a declaration that the era of subjugation was over, and even as Captain Iron Vex's desperate commands echoed in the fading corridors of control, the very foundation of his rule began to crumble under the weight of a unified will. With a fury tempered by compassion and steely resolve, Darius advanced past the shattered remnants of his captor's loyalty, his cybernetic enhancements glowing with the brilliance of 1,000 reborn dreams, and in that charged moment, his voice rang out, clear and unwavering, "No longer shall we be defined by the scars of our past or the cruelty of our oppressors. Today, we forge a future where the light of freedom outshines the darkness of tyranny." His declaration, delivered with the quiet force of a warrior who had tasted both defeat and victory, shattered the last vestiges of fear among the assembled insurgents, who now looked upon the fallen regime with eyes alight with hope and determination. Amid the tumult of clashing wills and the silent thrum of a vessel in revolt, Darius locked eyes with Captain Iron Vex, whose once impenetrable mask of authority now lay in tatters before the undeniable truth of a people awakened, and in a tone both sorrowful and resolute, he uttered, "Your reign of terror is over. You ruled with fear and cruelty, but the human spirit cannot be chained, for it is forged in the fires of adversity and tempered by the hope of a brighter dawn." As the words reverberated through the cavernous halls, a profound silence fell upon the remaining loyalists, their hearts trembling with the realization that their world was ending, replaced by the promise of something infinitely greater, a future where each individual would be free to write their own destiny. The energy that pulsed from Darius seemed to electrify the very air, transforming it into a palpable force that gathered the scattered fragments of a broken order and reassembled them into a vision of unity, justice, and renewal. And as the rebel forces coalesced into a single, unstoppable entity, they advanced with the precision of a well-honed army of hope, their every movement a defiant testament to the strength of the human spirit. "Let this be the moment when the darkness of oppression is banished forever," Darius proclaimed, his voice mingling with the roar of 1,000 liberated hearts. "For every chain that has bound us will be shattered, every lie that has enslaved us will be exposed, and in its place, we shall build a world where freedom reigns supreme." His words, imbued with both the weight of past sorrows and the luminous promise of a new beginning, swept over the gathering like a tide of destiny, and even as the fierce resistance of those who had clung to the old order mounted a final, desperate onslaught, the insurgents met it with an unyielding resolve born of generations of struggle, each clash of arms and burst of energy echoing the heartbeat of a people reborn. In the midst of the chaos, Darius faced the last vestiges of authority in a final, fateful confrontation with Captain Iron Vex, whose eyes, now wide with the dawning realization of his own impending defeat, darted about as if searching for a remnant of the power he had once wielded with impunity, and with a voice that trembled neither with fear nor regret, Darius declared, "You have lost not only your command but also your chance at redemption. Today, you stand as a relic of a past that has no future, a monument to cruelty that will be erased by the relentless tide of hope." The words struck deep, and in that charged silence, Vex's defiant posture crumbled under the sheer force of inevitability, leaving behind a hollow figure whose reign had ended not with the clamor of gunfire but with the quiet, undeniable truth of freedom reclaimed. As the last echoes of resistance faded, the vessel, once a prison of despair, transformed into a crucible of rebirth, its every metal contour and flickering light a testament to the indomitable will of those who had dared to dream of a future unshackled by fear. And in that hallowed moment, Darius extended a hand not in malice but in invitation, a gesture that transcended the boundaries of old enmities and offered a path toward unity, saying simply, "Join us, and together we will build a world where every soul is cherished, where the wounds of the past are healed by the strength of our compassion, and where the light of freedom shines on every corner of the cosmos." His voice, resonating with both authority and empathy, enveloped the assembled rebels and former foes alike, binding them in a shared resolve that no longer recognized the divisions of the old order. And as the crowd murmured its agreement in a chorus of hopeful voices, the air itself seemed to shimmer with the promise of a new era. In that single, decisive act of transformation, the chains of oppression were not only broken, they were obliterated, replaced by the unyielding bonds of solidarity and the fierce determination to reclaim every lost moment, every stolen dream, and rebuild a future where every individual was the master of their own destiny. The vessel's oppressive corridors, once echoing with the commands of tyrants, now pulsed with the vibrant energy of collective liberation, and in that powerful convergence of hearts and minds, Darius Kane, known across the stars as Reaper, became not a symbol of death but a harbinger of life reborn, his legacy forever intertwined with the spirit of a people who had risen from the ashes of despair to embrace the boundless horizon of hope. With every word, every gesture, and every heartbeat, the final act of rebellion was etched into the annals of history, a history defined not by the tyranny of the past, but by the promise of a future forged in the crucible of unity and unyielding resolve, a future where the light of freedom would forever illuminate the path for all who dared to dream.